Alright, this video is on torture techniques. And any of you guys who watched the video about Christopher Stegeman are kind of familiar with this a little bit, but we're going to cover torture techniques that are utilized by the mental health care system and by law enforcement. Several of the videos that I had posted that I found on YouTube show police officers who killed people with asphyxiation.
Tell him if you need anything. Russ is right in there. I'm going to go run and grab a few things.
Thank you, Miss Mary. First, I'd like to cover those of you who know what a B-52 is. This is a generic medical term for something meant to knock you out. It's supposed to be for people who are unruly. However, a lot of hospitals and hospital staff, especially the younger generation, tend to feign being butthurt over stupid things so that they can feel in control by implementing many of these techniques, such as the B-52. Many of the chemical concoctions that are used in a B-52 include medications such as Haldol or ketamine or Ativan, or combinations of them in conjunction with a catalyst like Benadryl, which in itself seems harmless, does it not? But that depends on what you're mixing it with. One of the common techniques is asphyxiation. Asphyxiation, waterboarding, pain compliance, or chesting. Also obstruction of airways. Many times what they'll do is they'll put you on the ground and an officer or a medical technician will put their knee on your back, which constricts your ability to breathe. You're drawing in less oxygen now. One of the techniques that they used on me this weekend was to put their hand on my beard so that I couldn't really breathe on my throat right here, and also to hold their hand over my face using my beard to obstruct my ability to breathe, while having their knee on my back, preventing me from being able to take in a full breath. In 3 of those videos that I had posted up where people were literally killed on those videos, the man, I believe it was in Colorado, the man who was on the ground when the police did it, and they had their knee on his back and had his arm pushed up his back. Part of what that does with your arm up your back is it forces you into fight or flight mode due to pain compliance. Basically, they believe that by forcing you into sheer amounts of pain that you will comply with their demands. The problem is that they're pushing this pain compliance and they're keeping this pain up, which scares you. It's not just scaring you, it's forcing you into fight or flight, which is forcing you to need to breathe more rapidly because your heart is pumping faster. This will kill you. This will literally kill you. It's similar to waterboarding. One of the techniques that is commonly used is that they'll put a knee on your back and another officer or another law enforcement person, or in the case of Kelly at the hospital, a security staff or a technician, as some of the people there are called. These are not medical professionals. These are literally babysitters. One of them, his name is Levi, admitted that his job is just to be a babysitter. A lot of the other ones, it's kind of like people who don't want to be called a janitor. They want the term maintenance engineer. No, you're a janitor. You're a toilet cleaner. Get over it. But the thing is that the man in that video that I speak about, they were telling him that if he can talk, he can breathe. Or if he can talk, then he can breathe. If you can tell them that you can't breathe, the idea is that you can breathe. Well, the problem is that you're short of oxygen now. And they're scaring you, which is making you even more deprived of oxygen. They're inflicting pain upon you, which is making you even more deprived of oxygen, increasing your heart rate, requiring more oxygen in order to take care of that. They're asphyxiating your body slowly and causing you brain damage. And then the chesting thing, that's where they put their knee on your chest or their knee on your back while your chest is to the ground. When you're belly down, that's the most dangerous position for that. And this is also the most common technique. For me, I try my best when I'm being assaulted not to allow people to put me on my chest, because that's the most scary position. And then because you're freaking out because you can't breathe and you're telling them that you can't breathe, they're harming you further and putting more pressure on you, preventing you from breathing further, basically forcing you even further into a state of panic. So it's not just pain compliance. They're not just using the pain to do that, they're using asphyxiation to do that. But the thing is that there's a point where you need to stop. Like with me, I do something called a thumb check. I'm going to show it how that works. You take their thumb like this, you turn it in like this, and you push down on it. It hurts. It's excruciating. It will make people stop. A 350-pound man attacks you. You do that to him and just turn your hand just a little bit. You own that man, even if you weigh 98 pounds soaking wet. The thing with that is, when I use that on people, like when people are wrestling with me or tickling me and they want to use pressure points, I'll use that one. But the difference is, I only use it just long enough for them to get the point. If I was to take somebody and put them in a thumb check and hold them there for 5 minutes, they will be screaming at the top of their lungs like a girl, begging for help, crying. And that's at the point that I'm trying to make here, is that pain compliance, there's a point where it's not for compliance, it's now torture, and it is long-term torture. Waterboarding, same thing. Once you've done it to the point where they cannot breathe, they're begging for the ability to breathe, you are literally torturing them. And when you tell them, well, if you can breathe, or if you can talk, then you can breathe, you are throwing away that person's life. You are now saying that that person's life doesn't matter, what they're telling you doesn't matter, and that you know better what they are experiencing than they do, and that is not the fact. Another thing is, there's one of the guys there, his name is Levi. When I was telling him about what that's like, the waterboarding, the being given the B-52, the pain compliance, and how much that hurts, as well as being a victim of many of the violent acts that have been perpetrated against me, he kept on smiling and oftentimes even lightly chuckling. This isn't something that someone who is at a medical facility for people who are suicidal, this is not something that this professional should be doing. This is not appropriate. For some people, that's a coping mechanism, and I understand this. My friend Laura, when she's scared, she lightly chuckles as well. She goes, and it's not that she thinks it's funny, it's that she's scared and that's how she deals with it. With the asphyxiation techniques that were used at Regional West this weekend, they accused me of assaulting them. Now, I want you to put yourself in my position. Here I am, I've been forced into this place where they say that they're going to help me, and they're doing the exact same things that have not helped 8 times before, but they're not willing to try anything else. They're not willing to look at the evidence, just like the police aren't willing to look at the evidence. Between looking at the evidence of the abuse that I've endured and dragging me to a hospital, the police always drag me to the hospital, or they lock me up in the jail. Now, if they take me to the hospital also does not look at the evidence. What they do is they take away all of the evidence, just like the police did, and they utilize these techniques. or they have me arrested and taken to the lockup. No matter what, it's a no-win situation. It's a no-win situation that takes away any hope. It forces someone into hopelessness and destitute. And that hopelessness and destitute forces people who are trying to get help into a state of mind where they now literally are going to try killing themselves instead of begging for help because they want to live. They truly do want to live, and you have taken away all hope because somebody said something about suicide. You forgot and didn't hear anything else that they said because somebody said something about suicide, and you went tunnel vision on that. The protection of money, that's what these techniques do. That's why somebody who is disabled, somebody who has been victimized, needs someone in their corner, needs someone to go in with them. So these techniques are not used against them to force a false confession, to torture somebody into saying something that can be utilized to frame them for a crime that they didn't commit, or to try to twist it around so that them defending themselves is a crime. This weekend, there were 6 staff members who assaulted me. They put their hands on me. And through waterboarding asphyxiation techniques, which it's not literal waterboarding, they obstructed my airway, pushed on my throat, pushed on my chest, and forced a B-52 drug concoction into me. This has been utilized against me at least 8 different occasions in the last 2 years. Or at 8 different locations in the last 2 years. 2 of those locations, that B-52 concoction was utilized at least twice within a 24-hour period. This is not only dangerous, it's got long-term, long-lasting effects. It's very scary. And by forcing somebody into a position where they're in extreme pain and you're inflicting severe pain on them, and then expecting them not to react to that pain, expecting them not to react to having their airway obstructed, expecting them not to react to having 6 people pushing hard on their body in places that hurt a lot, like having someone sit on your ankle while your ankle is being crushed into the floor. They're expecting you not to move. Meanwhile, someone else is obstructing your airway. Meanwhile, someone else is pushing down on your chest, preventing you from being able to fully take in a breath of air. Meanwhile, they're forcing your arm up your back, which prevents your diaphragm from performing and functioning properly, and forces your heart rate up. It's a no-win situation. I'd like to cover this further, but I really need to try to get some sleep. I drank 3 cups of coffee, so it's starting to kick in. As you guys who, like anyone's ever going to watch this video, but if you guys have seen me when I haven't had my coffee at night, I'm a lot louder. I'm a lot more moving about. You guys see me pacing. The terrain is always changing, and that's because I'm always walking. Those of you who grew up on Ritalin understand exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you who self-medicate with caffeine at night to help you get to sleep, or to at least put you in a state of less movement so your spouses or brothers or sisters or children can at least get some sleep. I'm sure that makes sense to you. So I guess you guys have a pleasant evening. Try to be safe, and if I get the opportunity again, I will cover in specific the B-52s and how those are used to great effect to scare the living hell out of people who are already scared.